So our next speaker, she's representing, I guess, Timon is a man of few words. He tends to be pretty shy, but yeah, he does a significant amount of work to put this event on. So I'm just gonna bring some attention to you for a second. But Betsy Klein founded Plan B to save wolves in 2016, along with Timon Pratt. The genesis of Plan B was aimed at helping other nonprofits that specifically supported wolves and wolf dogs. Under her leadership, the foundation has quickly expanded in both scope and reach. In its brief history, Plan B has been involved with the rescue of over 250 wolf dogs, provided much needed funds to over 30 wolf rescue organizations, developed and co-produced Sedona Wolf Week with us, Apex Protection Project, and launched I Am Wolf Nation. As a member of the National Coalition to End Killing Contests, she's currently working alongside other organizations to end killing contests in Arizona. Her latest project is developing and launching the Call of the Wild mural, an international collaborative public art installation in support of the Endangered Species Act.
And that's all the stuff we're supposed to say. But what we want to say is that with Betsy and Timon and Plan B, what you see is what you get. And what you get is a whole lot of heart, a whole lot of love, a whole lot of courage. And they are two of the most amazing people that we have ever met, and we're incredibly honored to call them not only our partners, but our friends, our family, our pack.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so one more presentation, then you all get to hang out with the wolf dogs. So we have this nonprofit, and sometimes I find myself at dinner parties or gatherings, and people will ask me, what do you do? Oh, I have a nonprofit. Really? What's it called? Plan B to Save Wolves. And then the conversation generally goes in 4 different directions. Here's number 1. Oh my God, I love wolves. I dreamt of one last night. It had red eyes. What do you think it means? What do you think it's trying to tell me? I believe they are my spirit animal. Please save them. Number 2, what are wolf dogs? So I explain. Oh my God, I want one. No, actually you don't, and here's why. No, I definitely want one. I know someone who knew someone who had a wolf dog that was 98% wolf. Where can I adopt one? Third, Plan B, isn't that a contraceptive? And most times I hit the sweet spot where the person is engaged and interested in learning about our connection to wolves and why when we save wolves, we save ourselves and more. So I thought you might enjoy that little story. But the reality is, here we are, an organization just over 2 years old, doing, acting, talking, and saving in ways I never thought imaginable. I had the wonderful honor recently where one of my team members on the team to end wildlife killing contests in Arizona said to me that she had the impression Plan B had been around for a very long time because of all that we had accomplished. And I met her in our first year. As always, I blame my husband, Timon Pratt. I can honestly say the only reason why we are here today is because of him. While I hemmed and hawed about what I wanted to do, he went about creating the organization, doing the branding, including the logo, and adding my name to it. And the reason why it's called B is because that's what he says to me. He says, what's the Plan B? This only exists and thrives because he is with me every step of the way. There are a lot of tactical and practical reasons for Plan B to exist, but for me, I want Plan B to make a difference in humanity. I realize that may be a tall order, but if I can get just one person at every presentation, to understand their connection to all things wild, all things human, and all that is around us, so much so that when they wake up each day, they're doing their best to do no harm. And second, to feel a passion so strong it compels them to act and be a voice for those who need it most. Now, I don't expect everyone to feel the same way about wolves that I do when I go out and do my presentations. But I hope and expect that they will find a cause to be a champion for. And there are a lot of causes that need champions. And if something I said inspires someone else to go and do that, well, in the end, we all win, don't we? Matt Francis is a perfect example. It was one of our I Am Wolf Nation emails that inspired him to reach out, and now he is a leader in ending killing contests in Arizona and a program associate for Project Coyote. I also consider him a dear friend, and he's sitting right there. The overall theme of my talk today isn't so much a detailing to you step by step what Plan B did last year, between last Wolf Week and where you are today is to talk about something bigger. It's to talk about what motivates us. Are we motivated by fear, anger, ego, or jealousy? Or is it love, compassion, and an open mind? And why is this even relevant? Because for me, this past year was a study more in human behavior and how we behave when we are needed most. And as we dig only deeper into fighting the good fight, we are going to need those around us to understand we need compassion and connection, not ego and jealousy. That a rising tide does lift all ships, and that there's no competition if ultimately we achieve what we all want. So let me begin, starting with a little campaign to end killing contests and ending with an epic wolf dog rescue. To say that the past year for me personally and Plan B has been a roller coaster of a ride would be an understatement. The highs and lows filled with so much happiness around some deep moments of despair. But let's start with the highs. Sedona Wolf Week 2018 was a huge success, and the event continues to grow every year, as evidenced today. I know I speak for the team when I say how honored we are to have the caliber of speakers here who believe in our fledgling of an event and come and support us in our passion and mission. Thank you so very much to each and every one of you. I'd also like to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, who also believed in Sedona Wolf Week from day one, Poco Diablo Resort and the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation. We had absolutely no idea how this event was going to be received, and we greatly appreciate the trust that it had and still have in our plan and our vision for what Wolf Week could become. Sedona Wolf Week 2020 is already scheduled for the first week in March, and we've just begun talks of expanding into other cities. Hosting events is epic, a ton of work and logistical details, always striving to stay relevant and exciting, offering programming to bring people in and help guide them to remember their connection to all things wild, and then to step up, join forces and voices, and advocate for them. And if you are a nonprofit putting on events, it's even more tricky, as you balance staying in the black while providing the most robust event possible. So we want to say thank you to all our donors, ticket buyers, supporters, volunteers, and more who have given not only financially, but with their time and with their hearts to make this happen. Another wonderful project we launched this year is our Call of the Wild mural. The project was inspired by people asking me all the time, how do I lobby? What do I have to do to learn how to lobby? Because they would see me post on social media about my lobbying trips to our state capitol and to Washington, D.C. What I came to realize is that so many people are either not aware of how to do it, or they carry a fear to share their voice. Obviously, the idea of traveling public art installation is not a new one. However, in these times rife with strife, where comments can quickly escalate into arguments, as we see daily on the news and social media, I realize people want to be able to express themselves in a safe way. So the mural idea was created to shift their motivation from a place of fear to a place of compassion, where they can be inspired to take action. The mural is a collaboration with the amazing art advocate Lauren Strohacker, who created the wolf silhouettes for us. The idea is to create a large mural of these silhouettes that will travel starting here in the Verde Valley, eventually to our state capitol when legislators are in session, and ideally across the country, where we end up in Washington, D.C. with hundreds, if not thousands, of these wolf silhouettes that represent our voice. At least that's my vision. We have a long way to go and some grants to write and sponsors to get. However, all of you in this room can help us right now by going down to the mural that's outside and lending your voice through your creative expression. The Call of the Wild mural launched last October with help from our good friends John Soderberg, Wendy Lippman, Talakapaki, and Lyndon Goldenstein, and is one of our top priorities. However, it was delayed slightly due to an emergent situation that occurred last fall, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Finally, one of the major highs this year is our effort to ban wildlife killing contests in Arizona through our advocacy arm, I Am Wolf Nation. A core team of 4 people who are motivated to right the wrongs, to fight for the voiceless, to remind humans of their humanity, embarked on this endeavor last October. Since our brief time together, we've managed to get a resolution opposing killing contests from the city of Dewey-Humboldt, Flagstaff, an unanimous proclamation from Yavapai County. They joined Tucson and Pima County, who already had resolutions in place. Coconino County joined them just this past Tuesday, after a very difficult meeting in February where they tabled the vote. Although resolutions and proclamations are not law, they are very important. They represent constituents who are sending a very clear message that the state of Arizona is saying no more to wildlife killing contests. Most recently, because of our efforts, Arizona Game and Fish Department has a proposed ruling to ban predator killing contests. It will go up for public comment on April 12th, and we will have a fight on our hands. And we will need all of your help. Excuse me. I took a Benadryl. Allergy season. Clearly, this is a victory in some way, but the wording of the ruling is not great, and the opposition will be in full force. Has it been easy? Sometimes, but most times it's exhausting, both physically and emotionally. And I know there are many people in this room who understand exactly what it is that I'm saying. But is it worth it? Absolutely. Because when we advocate for wildlife, in this case predators, it is really nothing less than the salvation of us. That may sound dramatic, but if the logic and observational evidence behind this claim hold true, then the only sane and reasonable response is a call for action. And it's not easy being a constituent. The four of us have driven all over the state of Arizona on our own dime and time to sit in meetings lasting 3 hours where we get to speak for 3 minutes, sometimes only 2, for our plea and asking humanity to evolve and finally end something that's so abhorrent that when I tell people about them, they don't even believe me. They don't believe they exist. Then, of course, the opposition steps in, which is clear what drives them: ego, lack of empathy, and anger. This is not an assumption. This is something that we witness time and again. From their testimony at the meetings to their Facebook posts, which contain imagery and verbiage so grotesque, you have to wonder how anyone could possibly stand with them in solidarity to protect this right to dispose of animals in any way they see fit. And how do we ever get to a place where killing coyotes for cash and prizes is considered one of our rights? Never mind all the other ways individuals massacre these animals for their entertainment. Anger, fear, and ego drive the council members we talk to. In Dewey, we learned a huge lesson early on to make sure the cities and counties we were talking to understood we were there to represent all the people who live in Arizona, regardless of where our mail is delivered. We must all remember, regardless of location, it is our right and our responsibility to speak up on behalf of wildlife and what happens on our public lands. If people can come from outside Arizona to participate in killing contests, then certainly people from outside Arizona can come in and oppose them as well. In fact, every single one of you in this room can add your expression of opposition to these killing contests. And this applies to any issue. Our public lands are just that, and it is time for us and the legislators to understand our voice matters and deserves to be heard, even if I don't tick off their name on the ballot box because I don't live in their district. We need to overhaul the system, and it will only happen with a massive movement to do so, which starts in places like here today. But let me get back to Dewey. Not only were we labeled the outsiders by some council members, unbeknownst to us, apparently some people had written emails threatening to boycott businesses in Dewey if they did not vote in favor of this resolution. We knew something was definitely up when, during the invocation at the beginning of the meeting, one of the council members asked God to help them deal with all the outsiders in the room who are trying to tell them what to do with their city. And it didn't get any better after that. The resolution did pass, but the meeting was chaotic and people were upset, and rightly so. Their opposition to us came from a place of anger and fear that something was being taken away from them. They saw the public lands around their city as theirs, not ours, and the threats, of course, never help. As an aside, our team has never written or encouraged these tactics, and we almost lost the resolution over it. It was a tiebreaker. We should always strive to advocate from a place of integrity and honor. At this point, our momentum was growing, and we made the news, and others started to notice. The opposition rallied and quickly labeled us as outsiders as well. Their testimony at meetings frequently included many falsehoods, along with thinly veiled threats of how they would vote in the next election. I find that ironic, given over 99% of the people who oppose killing contests, and yet we've seen instances where these bullies are pandered to. Despite a resolution most likely passing 4-1 opposing killing contests in Coconino County, the Board of Supervisors back in February tabled the vote, and I believe due in large part to a contingency of the opposition that was in the room that night. Disappointing for sure. It is my belief that standing in your integrity and adhering to your principles when it is most unpopular is when your true character comes through. I do believe our character is our destiny, and I wish Coconino County had felt the same that night. Thankfully, they rectified that last Tuesday. In spite of the theme of my talk today, I struggle to find any common ground with killing contest supporters. They stand at the podium and they lie and they lie and they lie. And we know this because we do our homework. They say contests take place only in March to protect the fawns. However, we can present a summary of contests that take place almost year-round. They say they only kill 5 to 6 coyotes in each contest because the coyotes are getting so smart and they know not to participate. But then we show Facebook posts with photos of 20 to 25 coyotes dead in a pile, and they're smiling and posing over them. Some man even shot a dog, which you see the picture scrolling, and bragged about his kill, and another questioned if dogs were worth any points. And I could go on. So in this instance, do I need to find common ground? Do I need to try and come from some places not anger? I don't think so. Anger can be a powerful emotion, and if channeled appropriately, can create positive change. Despite the opposition stepping up, our small yet mighty team of 4 persevered. We have an amazing larger group of supporters around us, and I would like to give credit to specifically Joe Trudeau for the Center of Biological Diversity and his wife Amber, an avid hunter who came and spoke up for our side, and Emily Wren of the Grand Canyon Wolf Recovery Project and all her packtivists. Thank you, Emily. And of course, our friends at Project Coyote who are here today, Vincent Jones and Ruth Ann Penn. I believe our core team works so well together because our interactions with each other are founded in emotions based on our love for wildlife, respect for each other, respect for our surroundings, and all our egos were checked at the door. We value not only ourselves, but each other and the contributions we all have to offer. Our ability to ebb and flow, to step into one another's shoes when called upon, to give credit when credit was due, and share the successes as a team continue to move me to this day. I'm incredibly grateful for the 3 of them. The other 2 will be here tomorrow, and their ability to set aside personal agendas and to focus on the common objective. In addition to the public effort with resolutions and education, we are working behind the scenes using politics to benefit our cause, and the effort has paid off in spades. By setting aside preconceived notions that someone who may not have the same political beliefs as us would not be in favor of our opposition to killing contests has led to one of the most greatest accomplishments in this campaign. At this time, I'm not able to go into specifics as I'm required to maintain some confidentiality, but I can say those behind-the-scenes efforts have led to where we are today with Arizona Game and Fish proposing a ruling to ban wildlife killing contests. It has also led to a very powerful alliance at the state capitol, a bond so strong already that the pledge to see this through, to stick by our side until this ban is in place, has been given. It brought tears to my eyes to sit in their office recently, the unnamed at this point, and to hear them say thank you. They didn't even know these atrocities existed. And because of the 4 of us, we are in a place where Game and Fish, who we couldn't even get to return a phone call last fall, is now proposing a ruling to ban them. It is in those moments you just, thank you. I believe it is in those moments you discover your true purpose. To realize that no one else other than the people in that office in that moment may ever know the role you played to make the world a better place. And that was absolutely okay, because it isn't about me. It's about all of us. It's about all of the other sentient beings that need us to be a voice for them. To Tina, Lane, and Matt, I am truly honored to have been on this journey with you and humbled by your individual talents and abilities that collectively created a force to be reckoned with. Thank you for this amazing experience and for continuing on this path, and we still have a lot of work to do. And as I look out into the audience, I see people out there like Casey York and Mark Cook, and I know there are many others out there doing the exact same thing. The unsung heroes persevering because we can no longer, what is so wrong, continue, whether it be trapping, baiting, hounding, yoke whacking, and killing contests, to be brave and resilient and to stand up over and over and over again until all of these injustices are gone and are no more. And there's so many of you not on the front lines, and that's absolutely okay, because I completely understand why so many can't. It isn't easy and sometimes downright ugly. But we need you. We need you to stand beside us at meetings, submit a comment card. We need you to write letters to the editor and to make a call to that legislator. Hitting the angry emoji on Facebook isn't going to cut it anymore, because here's what the other side is really good at: showing up en masse with one objective. At the aforementioned Coconino Board of Supervisors meeting, the same number of people spoke from both sides of the issue, but more than half the audience was there to support wildlife killing contests, and it was obvious. If you like what we are doing, come and take a seat at the table. Come and stand beside us, and when we ask you to make that call, take the 5 minutes to make that call. Please do not assume that we have it all handled or that someone else is doing it, because if anything, the four of us have proven how powerful your personal voice can be. Everyone in this room can do what we have done and what we will continue to do. At the same time our campaign to end killing contest started, Plan B was in the middle of the rescue of a lifetime. Maybe not for others, but definitely for mine. The High Desert Wolf Rescue is what I'm referring to, which we co-led with Susan Wydell and continues on this day. To be honest, I knew very little about High Desert Wolf. There were a lot of horror stories, those of nightmares, if you will, of an ongoing problem of dogs being shot, euthanized, living in deplorable conditions by a woman devoid of any humanity. At least that is what I was told. Speaking now only of my personal experience that began on August 27th of last year, I cannot say I fully agree with those assessments. Again, I only speak to my personal experience, which is to say not all that came before me is not valid. In the beginning, I was designated as the person to be the key contact with Debbie, who was the owner of High Desert Wolf Rescue, because I had no preconceived notions, opinions, or judgments. Truthfully, I was not interested in what version of any of those stories was most true, nor was I really that interested in Debbie herself. All I cared about was what at the time, honestly, we thought were 120 dogs and puppies to be euthanized by Lassen County, California in approximately 30 days. In the early conversations with Debbie, she talked a lot, protesting claims of being labeled a puppy mill, and would review in detail with me all the wrongs of the past and who had executed those wrongs against her that resulted in many dogs being dragged off the property, and as I understand it, they were shot by animal control. I did not argue with Debbie. I did not try to push into her face the need for her to take responsibility for any of those situations, and many people ask me why. Because in the very beginning, that would have been pointless. I needed her to understand I was there to help, not to judge, not to take sides, not to defend the past or her. I think for so many in the pursuit of righting wrongs, we feel the need to teach people a lesson, to get them to admit their role in the process, to fall on a sword to be right, and perhaps there is a time and place for that. But I prefer to let that person work towards those conclusions on their own. I prefer to lead by example, acting and behaving as I would want someone to act and behave towards me. If I had just met you and you started demanding I ask forgiveness for all my crimes, and we don't even agree what the crimes are, I can assure you I wouldn't cooperate either. So day by day, we built our relationship. Once Debbie could see I was truly listening to her and truly wanting to help the dogs, everything clicked into place. She asked me to remove that statement from the GoFundMe page that said she was a puppy mill, and I did. If removing those 2 words is all it took to get her to cooperate, then so be it. Lives were at stake. The omission of those 2 words caused an uproar in the rescue community. One team member quit immediately, and some of the partners in the rescue group also didn't like it. So I asked what motivated the outrage. The need to be right, the need to shame this person, the need to express what they felt was true, and really, what is the truth? The truth is, if I had refused then, about now, 185 dogs and puppies would be dead. Sometimes letting go of the need to be right allows for the right thing to be happening. This point was later validated by my new good friend Dana, who said that the reason why we're so successful with a High Desert Wolf is because, one, of timing, and as in there was none, and because I didn't feel the need to prove myself as being right versus Debbie. Very wise words, you said. And to be honest, Debbie was actually the least of my worries. Once we established a level of trust, she did everything I asked of her, including signing a contract with Plan B that outlines specific requirements that she needs to adhere to, and it was entered into the legal record by the judge at the hearing I attended in Lassen County. The attorney for the county was in attendance that day when I went and begged for 30 more days to save these animals. The judge applauded our efforts and said that the work was extraordinary. The county attorney did not feel the same and would often say to me that they would not help any further because they had heard it all before, from the ones who had come before me, all the promises to rehome the dogs and finally resolve this High Desert Wolf situation. So he was placing all of his anger, frustration, and his perceived sins of the past and of others on me. I can only imagine how some things may have been easier with some help from the county, but that was not to be. In addition to the county attorney, it was others who caused more problems than Debbie, including people in the rescue world who could not get past their own issues. In the beginning, we had very little help because of the past experiences others had had with High Desert Wolf and Debbie. I remember very clearly standing in my bathroom, talking on the phone with Susan, and saying I needed to try. I just cannot walk away without trying to save these dogs. I would never be able to look at myself in the mirror ever again. Thankfully, Susan agreed, and others agreed as well, including my dear friends at Apex. And so it began. Well, here's what began. Almost immediately, the phone calls and emails. Who are you? What are you doing with all the money? Why are you helping her? And then as things progressed and 17 puppies came down with parvo and once transported to a rescue, I got dozens, if not dozens and dozens, of emails and calls and Facebook posts saying that I was intentionally spreading parvo. And then when we said they were a northern breed mix with potential for wolf content because we needed to make sure they were placed in the most appropriate homes or rescues and sanctuaries, the rescue team did debate over that. Then came all the public criticism of how dare I call them wolf dogs, that I'm just saying that for my ego, that I'm putting all the dogs in danger. And then more progress would be made and the rescue was on the news. Great news for the rescue, bad news for me. Then the emails and calls would ramp up all over again. And the attention from the press motivated past rescuers to chime in where apparently I had not given them any credit or acknowledged their accomplishments, and I didn't even know who these people were. I have to say I would cringe anytime any press would run about the rescue because I just knew it would produce a whole new wave of hate that seemed for some reason to be specifically directed at me. Then the inevitable differences within the rescue team, in part over being what to call these dogs, in part that some felt they were not being thanked enough, in part because their names were not on TV, in part because they disagreed with some of the actions of the team, and so on, fueled by exhaustion and an underlying sense of hopelessness of this rescue ever ending. I spent half my time actually working on the rescue and the other half defending myself or mediating internal disagreements. What I like to remind everyone is that all of this took place over the course of just 75 days, working parallel paths of fundraising, finding homes, transporting, vetting, altering, negotiating, troubleshooting without any kind of playbook. The larger groups who are expert in these large-scale rescues wouldn't help us. So we wrote our own playbook. And then I laughed to myself because who would I give this to? So I tell you this not because I want you to feel sorry for me and not because personally I want accolades. In fact, if you ask anyone who really knows me, they know I actually don't like to talk about this rescue. I tell you this because some of my deepest moments of despair I have ever experienced in my entire life were during those 75 days. Yet I believe because my motivation came from a place of love and compassion, a place where the only objective was to save lives. That is why we were able to accomplish as much as we were able to. Thankfully, there were many individuals and organizations willing to help and do the same. My dear friend Susan, who, by the way, I've never actually met in person, had to set aside her own personal feelings about Debbie and focus on saving lives because if you're a rescue, that is what it's all about. I greatly admire Susan for being able to do that because so many were not able to. In fact, when all the dogs were saved and none were euthanized by Lassen County, someone asked me if it was worth it because she, meaning Debbie, was just going to do it all over again. The question astounds me. So here are the options. Save all the dogs, Debbie breeds again. Save all the dogs, Debbie doesn't breed again. Don't do anything, dogs die, and who knows what Debbie does. When I look at those options, the only option that's completely unacceptable is number 3. Whereas to this person, none of the options were viable. Which makes me ask, how can you be in rescue and not help dogs because something that might happen in the future? In my opinion, fear-based decisions will never amount to long-term sustainable solutions that benefit the greater good, which is really what this presentation is all about. Before I move on, I would just like to say that the High Desert Wolf Rescue is far from over. Even today, we are still working on moving and rehoming the dogs all over the country, as some of the places they went to were always intended to be temporary and some, quite frankly, haven't worked out. To date, it has taken $90,000 in funds, over 20,000 miles traveled across the United States, over 25,000 pounds of food donated, 4 different veterinarians who traveled to the location to vet the dogs. And by the way, all 4 of them came back and agreed none of them should have been euthanized for health or behavior issues, as well as dozens of individuals and organizations who helped make this happen. And we still need all of what I just mentioned. So if you would like to help, we would happily accept. Lastly, I would just like to say Debbie has adhered to that agreement. And we continue to talk on a weekly basis about many things besides just high desert wolf, just like 2 friends would do. So to get back to the intent of my talk today, what motivates you to do what you do? Is it fear, anger, jealousy, disappointment? Or is it love, compassion, and open mind? Everyone in this room has probably heard the saying, the survival of the wolf depends upon the pack, and the survival of the pack depends upon the wolf. Yet we as humans seem to struggle with that concept. I believe that the attitude we feel about ourselves is reflected back in the attitude we have towards others. We speak and act without thought, knowing full well once words are spoken and actions performed, they cannot be taken back. The ripple effect is endless, and who knows how far along it will carry. And I say this in respect to both the positive and the negative. We must be mindful of that ripple effect and how it can impact others. There was a situation last summer where a wolf dog had been locked in a kennel for 3 years. A rescue was found, and Plan B was paying the transport so this poor animal could finally have freedom. Literally, as the transport was en route to pick up the dog, the rescue was canceled. Why? Because someone didn't like someone. I was in agony thinking about that poor dog continuing to live in a kennel for weeks until another transport was arranged, which ended up taking 3 times the effort and cost in addition to what the dog endured. Seeing that dog finally run on open land makes my heart sing. To think he had to wait an additional 3 weeks to do so for all the wrong reason makes my blood boil. The work so many of us are doing is really hard. It's time, it's money, our hearts and our souls and our minds. It's time away from our family, friends, our beloved pets, and in some cases our jobs, which help fund these efforts. What we all need, is for everyone to recognize this, to set aside egos for the greater good and common objective. Sometimes just knowing that your contribution is enough has to be enough, and trust in the universal law that we all get what we give. Our banned wildlife killing contest team has said many times, our names may never be known publicly beyond this room. But we know what we did. We know what it took, and there are those who get the credit for banning those horrible events, and wonderful, because guess what? It means our end goal was achieved. And in the thick of it, when things were looking very grim, when I was feeling like there were no miracles left and no one to help, that many dogs were going to die, I just wanted some compassion. So if you encounter someone in need, working so hard for something so good, offer a shoulder. Offer to step in and help wherever you can, or what you have the capacity for. Everything in a wolf's nature tells it to be part of something greater than itself, a pack. So strive to be a good pack member. Operate under the belief that most of us are doing the best we know how. Operate under the understanding that no one is perfect, mistakes are inevitable, forgiveness is essential, and that our character is our destiny. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You were my therapy. I finally closed the High Desert Wolf Rescue. Does anyone have any questions for me? Any questions about
Who has
all
a
of
question
that?
for Betsy? So much stuff there to ask about. Yes.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you for who you are, how you motivate me, and how you've changed my life.
Anyone else?
All right, then. Let's go meet the pack. Thank you, everybody.